Okay, so we are recording. We are here with Mark Morales of City National Bank. Hi, Mark. Welcome to the show.
Hi, David.
Thank you for being on here with me today. And, we have, about 25, 30 minutes, and well, 15, 20 minutes, really. Why don't you tell us about what are the important things that business owners today should know about this stimulus package and, the SBA loan options out there?
I'll start with there's three, basic programs that are coming out of the stimulus and the disaster loan programs. The economic injury disaster loan, the economic injury disaster advance or grant, and the PPP CARES from the stimulus. So first and foremost, I'm going to talk about the economic injury disaster loan and grant. That is applied through the SBA directly. It was released 3 weeks ago. That loan has a cap of $2 million or 50% of gross revenue before expenses, and whichever number is lower is the maximum amount a borrower can have for their business. It can be used for all business expenses for the period of time during the pandemic. The disaster declaration was done as of January 31st. So from February 1st through whenever you think this is going to end, you can make all of your payments with the economic injury disaster loan. It's an equal opportunity loan. Everybody gets the same loan. It's a 30-year loan with a fixed rate of 3.75%. It has no payments for the first 12 months. It has no fees and no prepayment penalty. And as long as you use the money for business expenses during the period of time while we're through this pandemic, you'll be A-okay with using that money. And then you can have that fixed loan. It can be used for rent. It can be used for mortgage payments. It can be used for leases, business expenses, fixed debt payments, credit card payments. The only thing it can't be used for is to refinance higher debt. So you can't refinance your 9% loan with, Bank of America with this loan, but you can make all the payments on your Bank of America loan that are required during the next few months and backdate, for the months that have passed.
Oh, okay.
When you apply for an EIDL loan, it is going to give you an option to ask for a $10,000 advance, and it's going to ask for your bank account information. If you check that box and you put in that information, they will deposit $10,000 as quickly as they can. They said 72 hours, but I did our own business, and we did it last Monday, and we still don't have the money. So they're saying that it's going to take a couple of weeks. That $10,000 is basically short term. It can be completely forgiven, and then you will get a call from the SBA loan officer directly, and they will go over your application, determine what your maximum amount is, and proceed to approving you and then funding, somewhere between 50 and 30 days. So the grant or the advance, the $10,000 will come first, and then even if you don't get approved for an EIDL loan, you get the grant, it can still be forgiven. So it's a great deal. That's one program. Yeah, that's one program, but that program, the money can't be forgiven, right? So that's a loan. Now, the PPP CARES stimulus part of this calculation and that program is being managed by all the member banks that deal with SBA. But your results are going to vary depending on what bank your commercial bank is. Whoever your business bank account and business bank for loans is where you would go first, right, to apply for a PPP loan. The PPP loan is designed for you to basically maintain payroll through June 30th of 2020, so about 8 weeks worth of payroll. And if you use the money for payroll and payroll-related expenses, it can be 100% forgiven. The calculation for a PPP loan is 2.5 times your average monthly payroll. What does that mean? There's a lot of things that go into average monthly payroll. Payroll expenses, right? So when I talk about payroll expenses, I am talking about W-2 employees, not 1099s, not K-1s, not distributions, only payroll, right? Anything that runs through the payroll system, taxes are taken out, that a W-2 is issued, is what this program is for today, right?
Gotcha.
So this is for the businesses that have employees. And you could include in that average monthly payroll all payroll expenses. So what most people are doing and what the SBA is okay with is you can take your 2019 payroll, whatever your gross payroll amount is, add in any benefits that are not included in your payroll report. So that would be your health insurance, premiums, anything that's tied to payroll, your retirement plan benefits. You're going to take that number, you're going to divide it by 12, and then multiply it by 2.5, and that's your maximum loan amount, up to $10 million, whatever is lower.
Okay.
So it's the average monthly payroll times 2.5. Right?
Okay, good to know.
Now, if you use that money for 100% payroll, then it should be forgiven. Right?
Okay.
If you use it 75% for payroll and 25% for rent and utilities, that still can be forgiven. If you use it all for rent, only 25% of it will be forgiven.
I see.
So at the end of the term, and when we get to the end of the 8 weeks, if you've used it for what you've intended, then it should be fully forgiven. But let's say not all of it is fully forgiven because of what you used the money for. Then it would turn into a 2-year loan at 1%.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Now, many of the questions that have been coming in is, can I have an EIDL loan and a grant and a PPP loan? The answer is yes, as long as you don't use the money for the same expenses. What do I mean by that? So if I'm using a PPP loan for payroll because I want it forgiven, I can't use that same payroll amount and for an EIDL loan. What I've done for my company, the company that I own, all my fixed expenses, my rent, my debt payments, my leases, utilities, everything but payroll is going on an EIDL loan, and only payroll is going on my PPP loan.
I see.
That way I get my payroll forgiven, I can bring back my employees, I can pay them through June 30th, and then I'll use the EIDL loan to make the rent payment on my showroom, right? Because for many companies that have low employee expense, they may have high fixed cost expense, right? So you have to figure out which loan program is best for you.
Sure.
Now that was a lot of information in one fell swoop.
It was.
Now, do you have specific questions that you want to ask?
Not particularly. Just a basic rundown. Like you said before we started the call, you had said that you've been on a number of these sorts of calls, and so I just wanted to give the important things for business owners to know about it, and the eligibility and who can apply, and the inner workings of it as you just explained. And if there's anything else that is important for business owners out there today not understanding that they should know about, that's pretty much the extra. If there's any additional information that we haven't covered or you haven't covered in what you've shared already.
Let me go through a couple of the most frequently asked questions.
Okay.
So number one, what's the cap for the salary? So for the PPP loan, and this is going to talk about primarily the PPP loan, which is the payroll one, because everybody wants the loan that's going to be forgiven, right?
Right.
The cap is $100,000 for any one employee. So when you're doing your average monthly payroll calculation, if you have employees that have earned more than $100,000, you count them only at $100,000. You still
Okay.
count their benefits and all of the cash payments to the employee, but the salary can only be counted as 100,000.
Okay.
Many questions have come up from 1099 contractors. So, I'm a business owner and I have 5 employees and I have 5 1099s. For the PPP loan, you're only going to file for the 5 employees that are W-2. Each one of those 1099s that you pay should file their own PPP loan based on their 1099 income or K-1 income or sole proprietor income or distribution income on April 10th. April 10th is when those businesses, can apply. Right now, all other businesses can apply, nonprofits, C Corps, S Corps, partnerships, anything that has payroll, right? W-2 is what we consider payroll. Everything else can apply, but they would apply individually as a recipient of a 1099, and they would file those applications with their current business bank, and they would do that starting April 10th according to the SBA. So they can't apply yet. Now, another question. What if my bank is not participating? I'm a business bank, and I bank with Wells Fargo, and Wells Fargo turned off the spigot on Sunday. You can go to another lender as long as they are accepting non-clients for this program. What I have found in my experience is that, some banks aren't ready, some banks are oversubscribed, and some banks aren't handling anything other than their current clients. For those people, I am suggesting going on to the online lenders. Many of them are participating. The one I used for my own business, because Union Bank didn't have their act together, and still you can't apply with Union Bank, I went to Kabbage, and Kabbage is spelled with a K. They have an online portal, and you can do the whole thing online. Right? It doesn't matter who you apply with. You can only apply with one bank for a PPP loan. So don't do multiple applications, because what's going to happen is you're going to screw yourself out of any money. Pick whichever one can handle you today, right? Because I'll tell you, many of the banks have hit, are going to hit that cap of the total amount that's been allocated for this program. Now, I heard that President Trump has added more money to the program, but I haven't seen any official notification. But once the 350 is gone, and when I'm talking about 350, that's 350 billion, then the money will have to wait for more money to be allocated.
Right.
City National is, we're only handling current clients at this time. If you're a client of City National, we will process your PPP loan. We've processed over 1,000 loans and over $1 billion in 3 days.
Wow.
And we're a pretty small lender. And we're doing everything manual because we don't have, we're not technically forward that we can turn on a dime here, right?
Sure.
Because we're a brick and mortar. But online lenders, which are accepting applications from non-clients, they're more tech savvy.
Sure.
But it's the bank's money, right? So with the PPP loan, and this is the real difference between the two programs. The PPP loan is the bank's money fully guaranteed by the SBA. So the banks are going to be doing your application. They're going to submit it to the SBA. They're going to get a loan number. And as soon as we get loan docs from the SBA, then we'll fund. Right now, we're just reserving funds from that pool until we have loan docs that the customers can sign. But we have already reserved $1 billion for our clients. And that's huge.
Wow. Yeah.
Right? That's pretty small. Wells has done $10 billion because that was their limit from the Fed, right? Because they have their own issues over at Wells Fargo. So they capped Wells Fargo at $10 billion. But they hit $10 billion in 1.5 days.
Wow. Okay.
Right? Because they're a nationwide bank, and even though we bank nationwide, we're a much smaller bank than Wells Fargo. So you want to go where you can get service first, right? Because you don't want to miss out, on getting the opportunity to get these funds.
Sure. Now, I do have one quick question, and that is, can you spell Kabbage? You said starts with a K.
Yeah, KABBAGE.com.
Oh, just like it sounds, but with a K instead of a C.
Yeah.
Perfect.
One of
Okay.
the sharks, the blonde lady on the sharks, is one of the partners of Cabbage, and Cabbage does online lending for businesses, but they're
Okay.
participating in this program.
Interesting. Okay, that's really good to know. Are there any other typical questions that you've been getting that you might share with us that might be beneficial to those business owners out there?
Sure. There's been a lot of changes to the program since it was rolled out.
Hmm.
What I would say for the PPP, because that's where most people are applying, especially for the payroll,
Right.
what do they mean by maintaining payroll, right? So when we look at 2019, the SBA is going to, the calculation is they're going to look at your average monthly payroll and your average number of employees. So let's say your average number of employees last year was 25.
Hmm.
So when you get your loan, they're going to see and look for you having 25 employees now that you're paying by June 30, 2020, right?
Hmm.
So you want to bring those employees back into the payroll system and benefits until June 30, 2020, because that's when really the program ends.
All right.
And it does not have to be the same employees, and it does not have to be 25 full and part-time employees. What we do is we calculate out what your average full-time equivalent is for your
Okay.
year 2019. So let's say
Hmm.
you had 10 part-time employees and you had 10 full-time employees. Well, your average full-time employee, full-time equivalent would probably be 15, not 20, right? Because
Sure.
part-time would add up to 40 hours each week, right?
Hmm.
So
Yes.
that 15 is what we will be looking for you to maintain your payroll and the dollar amount of your payroll. So if your average monthly payroll is $100,000 and you get 250, we're expecting that you spend around 250 for the same average number of employees to be fully forgiven. So
Okay.
there's a lot of conflicting information out there, but right before this call, I was on the call with the SBA directly, and so they gave us new direction based on what was very, very cloudy over the last few days.
Hmm.
So really, this is a great program to keep your business afloat, not only the
Sure.
employees, but then on your fixed expenses using the economic injury disaster loan.
Yeah. Wow. This is a really good opportunity, and I think that I've heard from other advisors that have shared on this topic also recently that we're paying into this, or we're paying for this, so we might as well take advantage, was their take on and suggestion with this economic stimulus. So that's good to hear. um, is there anything else that is important for us to know, or have we pretty much covered it?
I would suggest that your constituents and your members apply as quickly as possible.
Okay.
Many of the payroll companies, if they run their payroll through payroll companies, the payroll companies know what you need. And if you already have online access to ADP or Paychex, you should be able to pull the reports that you're going to have to supply, right?
Perfect.
So apply as soon as possible, because if the funds run out, you're not guaranteed that they're going to put more money in.
Right.
So
Yeah.
don't wait, right?
Time
Because
is
this
of the
is
essence.
time is of the essence. And if your
Okay.
bank is not ready, and trust me, not every bank is ready.
Right.
And that is what I've been hearing, across the board since this
Hmm.
rolled out on Friday, is my bank's not ready. What do I do?
Right. And so at least it's good to know that there is an option out there with Cabbage, and I would imagine some other online lenders that are doing these kinds of loans that people can seek and go to. So that's the good news, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Uh,
it doesn't matter. The terms are the same regardless of where you get the loan.
Great. Wow. Well, this was an abundance, a plethora of great information, Mark. And thank you so much for making the time to share this valuable information. And I just really appreciate you. And I will, once all this is safe to start seeing people again, would love to take you to lunch to thank you. So I love and appreciate you, and I really think very highly of you, and I appreciate everything that you do for the community and all of the business professionals in LA as a whole. So mwah.
It is my pleasure. And as you get questions, if you just, email me out a list of questions, I'm sure people are going to have questions, because we didn't cover everything. It's only been, 20 minutes or so, and everybody's situation is slightly different. Just send me a list of questions, and I will do my best to answer them.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Mark Morales from City National Bank. I really appreciate it, and wish you all the best, and I will be in touch. Thank you so
Sounds great.
much. Have a
Take
good
care,
night.
David.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
You too. Bye.